For decades, we've been talking about the glass ceiling, this invisible barrier in a woman's career as she gets more senior that she just can't get past. But the real issue is at the first step up to manager. We call this the broken rung on the ladder to leadership. A lot of the gender gaps we see in the workplace, where men are getting a little bit more advantage and women aren't, are rooted in what's called performance bias. So we tend to slightly overestimate men's performance and slightly underestimate women's performance. And as a result, women need to do more to prove themselves. And one way this plays out is men are often promoted based on potential, what we think they can do, where women are often promoted based on what they've already accomplished. And it's worse for Latinas and it's worse for Black women. And then what happens is you end up in the manager level, about 2/3 of managers are men, 1/3 of managers are women. You understand how this plays out. At every level, there's more men to promote and more men to hire into senior level roles, and women effectively get left behind and they can never catch up. You may end up in an organization where you just feel like you're unfairly being overlooked. Men are getting tapped much more often than you are. And if that's the case, it may be that another organization is the best fit for you. In fact, it probably is. It's so important that companies focus on always looking for high potential young women and then making sure they get the mentorship and the sponsorship they need. We know that actually everybody in the workplace, regardless of gender, is not getting enough sponsorship. And it's so critical for women that those doors get opened, and particularly women of color who tend to get a lot less sponsorship. The other thing is a lot of people don't realize that there's such a lack of women at the manager level. So if you don't know there's a problem, you're not really focusing on fixing it. We know HR doesn't realize that there's a problem, and employees don't know either. So if you're a manager, how helpful can you be if you don't realize there's a problem? So we know from our research that even when employees of either gender see bias, they very rarely speak up. We know that women are more likely to do what's called office housework. So that's taking notes, planning parties, things that are important and really add to the culture of the organization, but they don't always hit the bottom line, and they're not always what employees are evaluated on at the end of the year. If you're in a meeting and see a woman getting spoken over as a manager, speak up. If you see a woman get some more office housework get dropped on her desk, say next time let's rotate. Like, we don't want the same people doing the same type of work all the time. We looked at women with disabilities for the first time, and they are having a markedly worse experience than other women in the workplace. They are more likely to be spoken over, have their ideas co-opted. They're more likely to hear negative things about themselves or people like them, to have their capabilities questioned. So we really need organizations to understand there is no one story of women. Women are having very distinct experiences depending on all the different elements of their identity. So although company commitment to diversity is at an all-time high, company action is lagging behind it. One thing that's so clear from this research year over year is that companies need to treat diversity like a business priority. So what do you do when something's a business priority? You set goals, you publicize them, you share metrics so people know where you are and how far you have to go. You hold senior leaders accountable, you reward them for progress. What gets measured in companies and what gets rewarded in companies, we all know is what gets done.